ミラノ派が分かれば家族療法が見えてくる。ミラノ派の第一人者、パオロ・ベルドランド先生にお聞きします。感情について質問します。あなたは今、感情とセラピストという本を出版予定です。そこで、セラピストがクライエントの感情を取り扱うときに、何に注意を払うべきですか？また、感情を扱うことで何が見えてきますか？ I ask about emotions. You are currently publishing a book called Emotions and Therapists. What should therapists pay attention to when dealing with clients' emotions? Also, what can you see by dealing with emotions?
Okay, there is an interesting story about that because at the beginning in systemic therapy, they warned you not to pay attention to emotion. And the idea was, and you find that in the publication of the early Milan group or early systemic therapists, don't pay attention to emotions because emotion distract you from systemic processes. Because there was this idea, and I think the idea came from psychoanalysis and traditional psychotherapy, that emotion is something individual. So the emotion was considered to be inside the individual, and so if you paid attention to emotion, you were not interested anymore in systems, in relationships, in families, because it was inside, And then, working, we realized that actually when you work with families, for example, you have powerful emotions coming out, but we did not theorize them. So they were outside our theory. So it was something that happened, and we didn't know how it happened. We knew it happened anyway. So what we decided to do at a certain point was, let's see if we can consider emotion as a systemic phenomenon. And considering emotion as systemic phenomenon means I see emotion as something that is exchanged between people rather than something that happens within a person. For example, a very easy example, if you see anger in a family, this anger is circulating. It's not just one person is angry. The family coming with let's say, a troubled adolescent, and the adolescent usually is very angry at his parents and all this kind of stuff. But this creates reactions. So, for example, the father may be angry, and the mother may be sad, and the sisters may be scared by this anger. So you have a complex combination, anger and fear and sadness, and this circulates in the family. So we decided we can look at emotion as parts of the system. So we can say any human system is also an emotional system. And so if you see the system as an emotional system, it means emotions are a very important way of communicating with each other. And as systemic therapy, we've always been interested in communication. So just instead of looking just to cognitive communication, we also look at emotional communication. And so this means that we must become good in distinguishing one emotion from the other. So, for example, if you have a person who is sad, is very different from having a person who is ashamed. Because if the person is sad, it brings the person to be closed on him or herself. If the person is ashamed, he's still closed on him or herself, but at the same time, they are looking at the others to see the other's reaction, because shame is more social than sadness. So we began to study the literature about emotion. There is an incredible lot of literature about emotion around, and to apply that to therapy. So it became very important, and also the therapist emotion became important, because we see the therapist emotion is a reaction to the client's emotion, and the client's emotion is a reaction to the therapist emotion too. So actually, if we had the possibility of having different therapists seeing the same family, probably the emotional climate would be different from therapist to therapist, because people feel what we allow them to feel. So if you are very, very welcoming, very open, probably you will have warmer feelings in the client. If you are a colder, more detached therapist, you will see other emotions in the family. So we have to remember, when I see, for example, let's go to the same example. If I see a family, everybody is angry, okay, I must wonder, what am I doing to make them angry? Because maybe I'm doing something, maybe my presentation is such that I enhance the anger, whereas if I have a different kind of presentation for myself, I can diminish the anger, and at this point it becomes easier to work with it. So and also what happens to me, sometimes the family is angry, and I feel sad, and so I think in this way, I am in touch with some other emotion in the family that they don't feel because they are just feeling the anger. So if I present, I'm feeling sad, what's going on here? This can be very relevant for the family because they can access a different emotional dimension. Also, we were saying that we create hypotheses based on some intuition. Usually, this intuition is grounded in the therapist's emotion. I imagine something that is not immediately clear because I'm feeling something at the same time, and so I have to understand my own feelings. So as you see, paying attention to emotion doesn't change the way in which I do therapy, because the basis is the same, but makes me more sensitive to a lot of dimensions that otherwise I don't properly see in the family. So I think that emotions are a very important tool, and with some training we become more and more sensitive to, because once we think emotions are important, we look at emotions more and we become more sensitive, and so it is a process where we go on learning about emotional understanding. And it's something that I think it can be useful to any therapist independently from their orientation, I think.
Thank you. Very interesting. So through emotions, we can understand what's going on actually now.
Yeah. Yes, because it's like adding some depth to our understanding of the family. Because if you have a cognitive understanding, you can see alliances, coalitions, and so on, and you get a good map, but it's a two-dimension map. And with emotion, you get the depth. And it's much better for our understanding.
Very interesting. Thank you. Thank you for Professor Bertrando.
Thank you.
Poco poco lilla